Well, Huskies, got a question for you. Why do you have to make it interesting? I mean, seriously, why do you have to make it interesting? I'm not talking about this game in particular, but just in general. You get off to a 6-2 start. I knew the second half was gonna be tough, and we were gonna experience some bumps and bruises. And I know, we're not close to a Rose Bowl or a Pac-12 championship game, just in general. But you get off to a 6-2 start. People are talking about possibly winning 8, maybe 9 regular season games. Talking about a potential upset against Oregon or USC, and then you put my expectations on the line until the final week of the season in terms of getting 7 victories. But you got the 7 victories, so that's what ultimately matters. Better late than never, I guess. So the Washington Huskies take down the Washington State Cougars by a score of 38-21 in a victory at CenturyLink Field in Seattle. And pointing this way because it's actually up north from where I live. But overall, a nice victory. The team came out firing on all cylinders, and then kind of fell asleep in the second quarter when the Cougars were making their run. I thought the defense, for the most part, played okay. I mean, they played the same way that they played against Hawaii, Eastern Washington, and Cal. The whole bend but don't break, that type of deal. But overall, they played okay. I mean, got to give credit to where it's due. Special teams, I would say that ultimately the special teams played pretty well. Although the one thing I was kind of that caught my eye during the game, and this is for both teams, the ball just happened to either bounce in one team's favor or the others. And this was like on a punt, like let's say it was a really, really bad punt for one team. And instead of, like just for example, the Huskies. Okay, so the Huskies, this actually happened. The Huskies would punt the ball, and then it would be a short punt, or the Cougars would block it or whatnot, and it looked like it wasn't going to go very far. And then it would take bounces and rolls, and just next thing you know, it turns into the average starting on the 20, starting on the 25, and it did happen a couple of times with the Cougars as well. So I'm wondering if there was something with the turf or anything. Actually, the Cougars had a punt where they were trying to get it between the 20 and the goal line, and it bounced right at the 3 and went out of bounds. Next thing you know, the Huskies are starting at their 3-yard line. So it was I'm wondering if the turf had a factor in terms of special teams. With the exception of missing that one field goal midway through the first half, Husky special teams played well. Keith Price played well. Chris Polk ran in for a touchdown and caught a pass for a touchdown. Kason Williams, holy cow, that's my player of the game. You made a difference in the scoring, the passing game in general, and also you had a good kickoff return here and there as well. And I'm sorry, the play of the game for the Huskies is Kason Williams jumping over the Cougar defender like the way he did. The Cougar was going for a tackle and he just jumped right over him. That's my player of the game. So now, since the Huskies have one more thing before we wrap this up, or wrap up the game portion of the video. I do hope that Washington State fires Paul Wolf. I do, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Husky fan and because I'm like, oh, everyone, yes, I hope. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that because Paul Wolf was actually the coach for the Eastern Washington Eagles, and he began to lead Eastern Washington to playoff runs and whatnot, and leading them to a good finish in the Big Sky Conference. And then a couple years later, there were sanctions against Eastern Washington. And why was that? It was because Paul Wolf broke the recruiting rules, and they had some recruiting violations. So Eastern was put on probation for a while and wasn't allowed to go into the postseason for a while. And Paul Wolf was dismissed as the head football coach at Eastern Washington, and replaced by, lo and behold, out of all people, former Central Washington University coach Bo Baldwin. And so he already kind of screwed Eastern. And a couple years after his dismissal, who's the one that's doing all the recruiting and winning a national championship with his kids? That's Bo Baldwin, former Wildcat. And so it's because of that, or I'm not an Eastern Washington fan per se, but when it comes to, the small schools kind of getting screwed over like that, since I went to a small school, I kind of feel for them. So don't lost a lot of respect for Paul Wolf at that point. So I do hope that he is dismissed. If not this season, then I hope the Cougs tank it next year so he can be gone. But that's just my own personal take. So with that win, the Huskies are now 7-5. They met my expectations. Out of all the football teams, that's the one that's showing progression. So I would be very surprised if the Huskies did not make it to a bowl game. I know 6-6 is kind of on the borderline, but with 7-5, that's pretty much as a okay. We're going to go to a bowl game. We finished third in the Pac-12 North, so not too shabby. And from what ESPN is projecting, it looks like we're going to go to the Alamo Bowl and either play Baylor or Oklahoma. I would prefer Baylor for a couple reasons. One, the Huskies have struggled a little bit with Oklahoma in recent years. I actually went to the game the last time the two teams met, back when Sam Bradford was on the team, and Oklahoma just demolished us. And the second reason why is I would kind of like to see the Dawgs take on a new team in Baylor. So. But that's according to ESPN. I could be wrong. I really hope that the Dawgs are going to go to a bowl game and that the highest that they can go to. And it should be interesting. So, and if they do go to a bowl game, expect some previews and post-game wrap-up from me as well. So, so they met my expectations. I'll talk more about the season after I figure out the season as a whole and where I think the team needs to go after we find out whether or not we're going bowling or not. But nice win by the Dawgs. We saved the season, got 7-5. We met expectations. We showed progression. Not so much on the defensive side. Now we can be nitpicky. Not so much on the defensive side, but definitely on the offensive side. We showed a lot of progression, and but we'll talk more about that later. So nice win by the Huskies. It's a proud time to be a Dog, and let's go Huskies. We'll see you all later.